Roguelites are all the rage right now, and it seems just about every genre has been adapted to this endlessly replayable format. I can't say I blame developers for going this route. If done well, it's a great way to introduce variety and add longevity without creating a ton of additional assets, and several of my favorite games from the last 5 years are from this genre. However, it can also feel like a forced way to pad content. Unfortunately, Blightstone falls in this latter camp. The tactics gameplay is genuinely a lot of fun, with exciting abilities and environmental hazards that provide several options to dispatch challenging foes. However, it never justifies its roguelike structure, with dull upgrades, limited variety, and slow meta progression holding it back. Thankfully, there is a solid foundation, and developer Unfinished Pixel can use this early access period to flesh things out, but I can't recommend Blightstone in its current state. On paper, Blightstone should absolutely appeal to me. It combines elements of some of my favorite games, blending the combat of XCOM Enemy Unknown, the structure of Slay the Spire, and the grim medieval fantasy setting of Darkest Dungeon. And honestly, it left a great first impression as I embarked on my initial run with the party consisting of Brun, the gruff brawler, Armand, the spell-slinging arcanist, and the crossbow-wielding hunter Hubert, along with his pet wolf. The goal? Protect a magical crystal as we fight our way through 3 chapters, each capped with an ultra-difficult demonic boss. From the first battle, it was clear that the tactics gameplay has some juice. There are several interesting ways to deal damage and manipulate the battlefield. Brun can pick up and throw enemies, crashing them into each other for damage, or, my favorite, throwing them off a cliff or down a hole. Hubert stays back, taking potshots with his bow, while his pet wolf gets into the fray and inflicts bleed. Armand has arguably the most interesting kit, with the power that links enemies together to share damage, and another that can push enemies or allies, which can be helpful for seeking out extra movement. Maps are designed to encourage creative problem solving, often featuring explosives or conveniently placed barriers to crash enemies into. Blightstone features free movement, not bound by a grid, and it works pretty well here. So often, maximizing the effectiveness of my skills required carefully finding the correct angle, and I appreciated being able to place my character exactly where necessary. It also creates some interesting considerations, like keeping my melee attackers out of my ranged damage dealer's line of sight, or tucking a hero into the safety of cover. It would be nice if I could undo movement, though. I felt discouraged from pursuing my more creative, home run strategies, as sometimes it was impossible to tell whether my plan to hit 5 enemies with a magical laser beam would work until I relocated my character and aimed the shot. My biggest frustration with the combat is the lack of information about the enemy's intentions. I don't mind that Blightstone chooses to conceal the specific movement or attack a unit will execute on their turn, but I was incredibly frustrated not to know their ranges. Trying to place my heroes far enough away to avoid attacks became a guessing game, which felt particularly bad in a strategy title where every hit point greatly matters. Maybe the developers aim to incorporate this into the process of learning enemy patterns, but to me, it feels like a glaring omission. Managing the party isn't limited to directing them on the battlefield. Various resources are acquired through winning battles, which come in handy at the campfire where the heroes settle after every few encounters. There, you use these resources and a limited amount of action points to do things like heal, search for equipment, or gain a buff for the upcoming fights. Here's where the blight mechanic is introduced, sanity damage that accrues over time and affects the heroes once reaching certain thresholds, although this was largely inconsequential in my runs. As I charted my path through the Slay the Spire-esque map, filled with combat encounters, mini-bosses, shops, and random events, I started to find flaws in the roguelike design. For one, just about every unknown node turned out to be a bad event, often a choice between losing resources and completing a brutal battle. I don't mind a few of these existing, there needs to be some risk-reward considerations, but the balance was so bad that I started avoiding these paths altogether. Opportunities to improve your heroes also felt too limited. Each character can get new weapons, armor, and an accessory through battle rewards and shops. There isn't a lot of variety, though. Judging by how frequently I'd see the same equipment over the course of a run, it seems each character only has a few options for each slot, and they all feel roughly equivalent. They generally increase damage or health, maybe with one other minor effect, but nothing drastic or game-changing. Occasionally, you'll earn the choice between 3 stat improvements for one character. Those did feel more substantial, but were pretty rare. Maybe the most interesting opportunity presented was recruiting a 4th hero, in my instance a priest, at the cost of lowering each character's health by 40%. However, when I tried this, I was immediately punished by the steep health penalty, which strongly disincentivized me from recruiting in subsequent runs. In general, my choices off the battlefield didn't feel nearly as important as the ones on it. For a tactics game, that's fine, but as a roguelike, it made runs feel incredibly repetitive. I was never presented with choices that would fundamentally alter my playstyle or really do anything to distinguish one run from the next. Granted, with each attempt, I progressed further, ultimately beating the currently available content on my 4th try. However, the main driver of those gains was through Blightstone's 2 meta progression systems, not the in-run upgrades or improvements in my skills and decision-making. To make matters worse, the resources required for meta progression are doled out incredibly slowly. My runs lasted well over an hour, only to be rewarded with enough for 1 upgrade, 2 if I was lucky. In its current state, Blightstone feels like a grind, especially with a lack of variety to spice things up from run to run. Thankfully, Blightstone's early access release strategy gives them plenty of time to incorporate feedback and implement improvements. I've already seen several updates since launch, including bug fixes, balance tweaks, and difficulty settings. The core gameplay is solid, but they need to make the player's decisions outside of battle feel as dynamic and influential as those made during combat. And more variety and build diversity are necessary to keep each run feeling different from the last. There is potential here, enough that I plan to track Unfinished Pixel's progress and revisit this at full release. But, unfortunately, I cannot recommend picking Blightstone up in its current state. It just needs more time. Thank you for watching. I'm a partnered creator with Minimap, who is kind enough to provide me with the code for this review. Minimap is the ultimate gaming app. It allows you to track all of your games and achievements in one place thanks to its Game Sync feature that works with PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and Steam. You can also share updates and reviews with a small but passionate and growing community. I'm a data nerd, so I love everything Minimap allows me to track, like what systems I own a game on and total hours played. And I've discovered so many great games through reading community posts and reviews. This isn't a paid advertisement, I just really like the Minimap app and community and want to see it grow. So if you are interested, check out the link in the description. And to see more of my game reviews, please subscribe. Okay, thank you, bye!